Okay, here is my presentation on professional development diversity. Um, what makes a successful classroom? And there are the effective classroom management and the positive behavior system, which is the PBS, and we'll go into detail for both of those in this presentation. Effective classroom management, basically it's proactively managing the behaviors to increase more instruction time. When you keep the behaviors under control and you keep everyone on task and engaged, then you're able to get more instruction fit into your daily routine. It's better to be proactive rather than reactive to negative behaviors. There's some examples of that in this presentation. You always want to give clear expectations, establish process and procedures early in the year, and consistency is crucial. So to create a well-managed classroom, you want to first establish classroom rules. The first day of the classroom, so kids are coming in, you want to take that opportunity to get everyone sat down, preferably in a large group setting, and address those classroom rules for your room. It's best to kind of have the students help create these rules. That way they feel like they have a purpose in the room, and that way they're held responsible for those rules. Fewer rules, the better. If you have too many rules, they might forget kind of what the rules were. So normally just kind of a handful of rules is preferred. You want to display those rules in multiple areas of the room, whether that be at the front of the room, by the door, throughout your room, by like the library or the computers, just kind of anywhere a children's going to be interacting in that classroom. You want to have those classroom rules displayed. That way they're always there and they're always able to see them. I've learned that it's best to create visuals that align with those rules, especially for any learners that learn better through visuals, especially with younger kids who obviously can't read yet. They can just look at the picture. They can see a picture of a child holding, raising their hand. That lets them know that this rule says raise your hand when you want to answer. And then review the rules at the start of each day. So every day you come in, it's kind of best just to get everybody sat down in a large group and just make that one of your rituals. It's just to review those classroom rules. You want to express clear expectations and consequences. All students are expected to follow those rules and procedures. No one is excluded from that. Design a behavior chart that students can visually understand. I gave the example of a color chart. I've worked with younger students, so that's just what we've always used. And to go more, an example for that is just start all students on green, and then you move colors with each misbehavior. So everyone starts at the same, on the same level. And then, if there was a negative behavior, then you can drop them a color. And then with each color, there would be, a small consequence. Obviously, if you go all the way down to, say, example red, then that might be a visit to the principal. So it's just something that you'll want to create also. As far as being consistent with your consequences, these are all just examples, of course, but you can give one verbal warning and then it's the color change. So you can say, this is your first warning. If you do that misbehavior again, then I'm going to have to drop you a color. Of course, you want to make accommodations for the students who have disabilities, especially if they have a behavioral disability. You're going to have to be a little more flexible. I've noticed, particularly with students who have ADD, ADHD, who, especially with ADHD, who have the impulsiveness, and sometimes they just act out and they don't even realize they're doing it. So we have to be mindful of students with those disabilities or who are on IEP. In those situations, you can make individualized management charts. It's best to be proactive rather than reactive. So give positive feedback for good behavior. Be sure that it is specific and immediate. An example, we're sitting, large group again, and Sally is sitting crisscross applesauce with a bubble in her mouth, I'm going to notice that instead of looking at Billy, who's not doing that. Instead of calling him out, I would say, look at Sally. I really like how she's sitting crisscross applesauce with a bubble in her mouth. Giving that positive attention and behavior might then make Billy want that positive behavior also. So he's going to now he's going to sit crisscross applesauce with a bubble in his mouth. Make sure it's very specific and it's immediate. As soon as you see the good behavior, not, oh, I remember 5 minutes ago Sally was sitting crisscross. You want to make sure you're recognizing that as soon as it happens. And you can use tokens as positive reinforcement, such as points or tickets. I know in some schools they use the Classroom Dojo. So it's just a little click on the computer and then the students build points. You can create like a monthly goal, weekly goal maybe if that's more feasible. If they earn a certain amount of points, then they get a special prize out of the treasure chest, or get an ice cream party, things like that. That's kind of just based on your classroom. Any tangible token, basically. It could be just a simple sticker. Everyone, whoever sat really well during breakfast gets a sticker when they're done if they cleaned up nicely. And always give those rewards to the students who follow the rules. Sometimes we're so focused on the negative behaviors and all the students who have those misbehaviors that we tend to forget about the students who are just, exceptional in the classroom. But we always want to make sure we're rewarding them too, so they keep up that positive behavior. The positive behavioral support, the PBS, that basically it supports that reduce negative behaviors and encourages positive behaviors. The effective use of PBS increases instruction time. Positive behavior intervention, which is PBIS, establishes a positive school-wide community individualized intervention that prevents problem behaviors. Those are for specific children who need their own behavioral chart. So it could be like a check-in, check-out type thing, check-in in the morning, and then at the end of the day, they go to their mentor teacher, and then they check out and they talk about their day. And target behaviors are measured before and during intervention. The measurements include event, which is number of times a behavior occurs, the duration, which is the length of time a behavior occurs, and interval, whether a behavior occurs during a specific time. So being able to identify those antecedents and consequences of target behavior, pretty much what occurs before that misbehavior and then what happens after, you'll be able to notice if it's starting to happen, then you can prevent that negative behavior from happening. Sometimes you make a plan and it doesn't always work, or it worked for a while and now you need to tweak it, so you can always make adjustments. And look at your reinforcers. You've been giving stickers out all month. Okay, maybe they're over stickers, so change it to, a piece of candy or just a little toy, like a glow stick even. Kids love glow sticks, I don't know why. But you can increase or decrease the intensity of reinforcers. Are you giving them too much? Are you not giving them enough? Evaluate your own consistency. Make sure you're being consistent every single time. Consider your support team. Is there follow-through? That can be your principal, your school counselor, your OT, PT, any of those resources there. We want to make sure we're all on the same page. And then something simple is classroom arrangement. Sometimes you just need to mix it up a little bit, and because change is a good thing. What are social difficulties? Students with learning disabilities may have difficulties interacting socially with others. That can be a hurdle, per se. And that goes into communication difficulties, as far as some students have issues with responding to commands or even requesting what they need, making eye contact, sharing. Then you have your students who may show aggression, which could be verbal, physical, indirect, or just outburst. And then you have your attention and hyperactivity. Of course, there's more, but these are pretty much the main ones. And how to address these social difficulties. The aggression, you want to discuss with children, with the students, what types of behaviors are considered aggressive. Kind of lay that out so they have a baseline, and then establish a no tolerance rule in regards to aggression. Make that school-wide. There's just no tolerance for aggression in the school. Teach students how to resolve conflicts with others. Sometimes kids get aggressive because they don't know how to resolve their issue with that student. ADD, ADHD, and sometimes those students just need a little reminder, so you can, to get back on track. So you can use signals to get their attention, such as just walk by them and give them a simple tap on the shoulder, just to say, hey, I need you to refocus. And position the student away from distractions, maybe not right by the door or by an aisle where kids are constantly getting up, going to the bathroom, getting a drink. And shorten their work time. Maybe they need a little sensory break. It's hard for them to sit still because they just kind of want to be moving. So just say, hey, if you can work for 5 minutes, I'll let you get up, walk around, and then you can come back. And then always make sure you give clear directions. That's just for any student if you want them to be successful. Evidence-based practice strategy that I chose was FAST, which is a strategy taught to students who have been identified as having social skills problems. And these are the steps: freeze and think. You want the student to say, hey, what's the problem? Alternatives, what are the possible solutions? Solution evaluation, choose the best solution. Is it safe? Is it fair? And then try it, of course, slowly and carefully, and is it working? Of course, there's going to be times when a teacher or adult is not immediately available to that student when they're in this situation, and it's important for a student to be able to handle the situation on their own. So I would want to teach students to use FAST when they are in a problematic situation. And to do so, I would start with some role-playing situations. That way they can get familiar with the steps. And then once they get familiar, they'll be able to use it. And I really love it because it's so easy to remember. FAST. I mean, that's super awesome. Instructional arrangements. As far as your classroom, you have your large group, which is 6 or more students, and the goal of that instruction is you want it to be similar to all the students in that group. You can't really individualize when you're in that setting. It's used when a teacher needs to model a problem or teach knowledge content that all students need at that particular time at the same time. The downside is there's less individual feedback. And if you want to maintain your behaviors, make sure you establish guidelines and rules for how a student should respond during that group. That's something you want to do at the beginning. And then this also gives multiple students the opportunity to answer a question. And make sure you give all those students an opportunity to do so. Small group instruction is normally more than 2 but fewer than 6, and it's used for specific instruction. The teacher has opportunities to give individual feedback to all the students in that group. Make sure, again, you want to establish those small group expectations to maintain behavior. And you can either group the students by same or different level, kind of how that's going to work. There's the one-to-one instruction, which the teacher works individually with the student, and the teacher can provide intensive instruction. It's a little more in-depth and specific, and it gives the teacher the opportunity to have close monitoring of progress. It's recommended for students with learning and behavioral problems. While the teacher is giving a one-to-one instruction, then other students are actively engaged in learning by either independent learning, cooperative learning, peer, or class-wide peer tutoring. And then just a quick little note. I know I kind of ran through this. It was a much longer presentation than I thought it was going to be, but this is my first week of internship, so I haven't actually been in my intern yet. So just want to let you know I wasn't able to address any of those, but that's my presentation, and hope you enjoyed it.